My name is Bruce Tao with Hmong American Partnership, and I'm a School Project Manager and Policy Analyst with HAP. And so I handle different special projects as well as all of our data research and policy. Most of you may know about HAP because Bao is in the room, but just so that we're all on the same page, I'll give a quick overview of our organization before going into some of the issues and challenges that our community faces with broadband adoption. So Hmong American Partnership, we're a social service agency based in the Twin Cities, serving both Minneapolis and St. Paul. We're a community development organization, and our mission is to empower the community to embrace the strengths of our culture while achieving our potential. Our vision is to reach out to the world with profound social, economic, and educational transformation. We do this through 5 different program service areas, covering a range from employment services to adult basic education and training, education and outreach to K-12 students, as well as services providing wraparound services for children and families, and as well as elders, and housing and economic development services. So basically, providing a one-stop shop for families ranging from children to elders, and we've been around for over 20 years, and we developed our programs to over 40 programs where we can serve the community, starting as an ethnic-led organization serving immigrants, refugees from the Hmong community, and really now branching out into a really community-based organization that serves a range of different ethnic groups from backgrounds ranging from immigrants and refugees to locally based community members who've been here for a long time. And so with our services, we're constantly thinking about how we can bridge that digital divide and be able to provide broadband access to not only children, but the range from adults into grandparents as well. And so there's several different issues and challenges that we've seen within the Asian American Pacific Islander community specifically, which has been our expertise for quite some time. So I wanted to just provide a quick snapshot of what the state of the Asian American Pacific Islander, or API community, looks like in the state of Minnesota. I'm not sure if you can see these, but I can also provide these slides for you as well. So about 5 million in the population in the state. About 4% of those are Asian American. And you can see in the pie chart, the breakdown is about a quarter of those are Hmong American. So this is the largest concentration of Hmong Americans in the country, about over 60,000. Followed by Asian Indian or South Asian, and then kind of a range of other ethnic groups as well. One of the challenges, but also one of the strengths of the Asian American community is the diversity of the different ethnic groups, the languages, and the countries that we come from. But often when the data is not separated into the different ethnic groups or disaggregated, that presents many challenges for our community. These are, I'm going to go through these a little quickly, but all the data is available. These come from a report that the Center for Advancing Justice did, and we were one of their local partners, which highlighted the Asian American communities throughout the Midwest. And so we were their Minnesota partner on this, providing really good comprehensive data.
Well, does it help?
Help or hurt? There's one in the front only.
No, shut that one off and turn the other back on. Is that okay, everyone?
That's better, yeah.
Okay.
I'll just talk through it too.
Okay.
But basically, these reports are also available online. I can provide links to those information for you. This just provides a range of the breakdown of all the different Asian American Pacific Islander ethnic groups in the state of Minnesota, comparing their educational attainment for high school and bachelor's, as well as compared to the general population and other racial groups. And so you can see that there's quite a range, with Filipino, Japanese, and Indian ethnic groups amongst the highest in terms of educational attainment. Whereas on the bottom here, you see that some of the Southeast Asian as well as the Latino groups have some of the lowest levels of educational attainment. In terms of limited English proficiency or language use, this provides a snapshot of those who their main language that they use in the home is English, and limited to English only in the home. Again, we see that with the Southeast Asian and Latino communities, it is the highest rates, with almost half being limited to in their English proficiency. Regarding poverty level and socioeconomic status, again, similar trends. We see that Hmong, African American, Latino, and Cambodian have some of the highest rates of poverty. Almost basically a little higher than 1 in 4 Hmong families in the state is living in poverty right now. So these are, provide a stark contrast to the range of the other Asian ethnic groups that we see across the state as well as across the country, and these trends are consistent across the country as well. One of the most striking data points from the report that we released was just the increase from 2007 to 2010 of employment, broken down by race, with Asian Americans significantly showing the highest increase of 200% compared to the other groups. This is due to a range of different issues. Part of it is the heavy concentration, about 30% of our community, in manufacturing. But I provide this point just to show you a contrast of kind of some of the issues that the community is struggling with currently. And then also just to contrast the current data that we see with one of the recent data points that the Pew Internet Study released in 2010. They did say that this was done only in English and with a sample that was more urban, suburban, and also more middle to higher income. And so the results kind of reflect that. You see that their reports are that Asian Americans, 80% use broadband at home and 87% use the internet, which is much higher compared to the other rates. What we've seen though from doing in our own internal survey at HAP among our participants is that the numbers are very different and are more reflective of the demographics that I just shared with you. Broken down by department, and then overall, with a total of over 8,000 clients served in 2011, we see that it varies across the departments, and that's reflective of how long the participants have been in the United States. For a lot of the employment services and adult basic education participants, they've been in the US for less than 10 years. For some of these higher numbers, like for the children and family services, then those participants are more likely to be a little more acculturated, have been here a little longer, but still have some lower rates of internet usage than we would expect. So this kind of gives you just a snapshot of how this could compare to other reports or reports that do not have anything regarding Asian Americans. But we need to keep in mind that the model minority myth is still very common in terms of masking the different issues within the ethnic groups, particularly for the Southeast Asian community. And these are some of the things that we have found. And so just to kind of give a very high-level overview of the issues and challenges that we see when trying to engage the community and provide the resources or services is definitely the cost and accessibility in terms of computer ownership and internet access within the home. The language barriers definitely remain an issue, especially for a lot of the Southeast Asian community with high rates of illiteracy. And then also regarding that, the ability to provide services or technical support to communities in language. The generational divide we see very often with a lot of the younger generation definitely having a better grasp on technology, but still having a huge gap between the older generation and the younger generation. Relevancy has also been an issue where communities, especially the older generation, may not see that internet access is relevant to them. They may not be accessing resources or their information or files or banking information online. They may do that in other ways, and this may be scary to them, which is kind of tied to part 5, which is about confidentiality, personal security, and safety. And this can also be tied to a history of being refugees, where oftentimes the community was persecuted and did not want to share private information with the government. And so this may have been carried over through, especially the older generations who may have some suspicions regarding sharing personal information online. How am I on time?
Good. We'll go so for, if we wrap up, so we can ask some questions, but wrap up by 10 after for you, I think we'll be good. We can spend 20 minutes eating lunch and doing this other discussion that should happen on Big Ones, maybe in another room. So.
Yeah, well, I just had one last slide, kind of just on the effective strategies that we've seen. So I can just talk through this and then open for questions. You know, a lot of this is a lot that we do, as well as what we've seen that has worked well with our partners. Just having these community-based partnerships with the expertise on the ground with the community, as well as the cultural and linguistic expertise, to be able to provide that training and outreach to the community and build that trust with them. Also, an intergenerational approach has been really well. We've seen this with our Digital Connectors program, where we're able to engage the youth and have them actually train and reach out to the older generations. And then also just ensuring that programs are sustainable, that they're relevant, that there's you know, there's plans built into them to maintain the program over time regarding funding levels, whether that be through social enterprise or other partnerships that are community-based and long-lasting, and being able to share with especially the older generation, how they can utilize the internet to access relevant information or resources for them. With that, I'll close and open.
Bruce, do you do site-based? Is it based at a specific site, or is there mobility in it?
Regarding all of
delivery.
So we had the back lab, which was on site on our Eastside location in the arcade center. We saw heavy traffic and heavy utilization of that in the community. But we're also in 6 different schools across St. Paul. And so we provide the training to the schools. We go to them directly, provide information to them and to their parents as well. So.
And any particular observations about overcoming the issues around personal security and safety issues? Because that keeps coming up. We've now heard that consistently, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really that one-on-one. I think a lot of it has to do with them being able to sit down and walk through with somebody in language who can show them, you know, this is the way that you access this information, this is what can be helpful to you, and just having, you know, an actual person navigating that with you. And I think that, again, just what we've seen work really well is that intergenerational piece, where you compare a younger person or a youth with someone older, because it also builds that relationship, which for our community has been difficult to bridge as well. So I think looking at the intersections of the needs of the relationship in the community, as well as sharing technology and information, has been really helpful.
Other people have questions? Will you stick around for lunch with us too,
yeah,
for conversation?
What do you find are the most useful outreach tools, other than in person, like text or YouTube videos, or what works?
In terms of getting program,
Especially the older generation, getting
promoting your programs or services.
Yeah.
A lot of times we use Hmong radio to reach out. The younger generation is definitely, you know, very tech savvy. They're online, they're on YouTube. The older generation, it's the easiest way is Hmong radio. Everybody listens to it, but also the Hmong media are getting into YouTube and technology as well. And I think with my mom, she doesn't know how to use a computer, but my dad has set it up where she just turns it on and automatically Explorer will load with Hmong radio and it'll automatically stream. And so there's definitely ways that they're beginning to engage in it, but using the ethnic-based media has been great.
Is the concern about the younger generation using the computer, is that kind of diffused once the older generation sees what it's used for and get, you know, with that working together? Is it a group, is it the Digital Connectors program that you're, the younger, okay. So then that helps diffuse the fear of the computer? Is that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's the, I think there's 2 parts to that. I think one is just the knowledge of how to use the computer, the technology part of it, and then there's the piece about just the information sharing. So I think as you are able to provide someone who in language can provide that technical assistance, then you can, I think you can slowly build your way up into getting them to understand how to share information. So if you start with email, or if you start with, just browsing YouTube sites, then that can lead them to see that it's not as scary as it may seem, and then maybe eventually they can get into, well, how do I look up symptoms for my, medical issues or things like that, and kind of building your way.
Great, all right, stick around for lunch. Thank you so much, and if there's